Our story begins with Bruce Lee, who is filming an exciting fight scene with another actor. Bruce performed exceptionally well due to his acting skills and high physical fitness. After the scene ended, the director told Bruce to take a break as filming was over. When Bruce Lee entered his room, he met Stick. Stick is a thug working for a large mafia gang. He wanted Bruce to join his gang because of his fame and unparalleled fighting skills. But Bruce got angry and punched him hard, kicking him out of the room. Stick then told Bruce he would pay for what he did and that he would take revenge as soon as possible. After that, Stick went to meet the gang leader and told him that Bruce Lee was stubborn and would never join them. The leader got angry and ordered all his followers to hunt down Bruce Lee and pressure him until he joined them. One day, Bruce Lee was driving with his girlfriend, Ann Morris, and they were driving safely. But suddenly, a group of fighters appeared, riding motorcycles, and surrounded Bruce Lee from all directions. Stick then arrived and told Bruce that this was his last chance to join their gang, but Bruce Lee continued to refuse and insulted Stick. The fighters then ambushed him and started landing deadly blows. At first, Bruce didn't want to use his full strength, but he got angry and started to thrash them one by one. Due to his incredible kung fu skills, Bruce Lee grabbed the criminals and crushed them all. Stick then threatened Bruce Lee with his girlfriend, Ann Morris, and was about to kill her. Unfortunately, Bruce had to let himself get beaten to save her life. After that, Stick told Bruce that this was his last chance to join their gang, and if he refused, they would kill him. Stick then took his gang and left. That night, Bruce Lee went to meet his friend Marshall and told him everything that had happened. Marshall warned Bruce Lee about the gang, as they were ruthless killers. They also had a huge and giant fighter named Hakeem, who was about 3 meters tall. He was an expert in martial arts and could crush his opponent's skull with his bare hands. He had never lost a fight in his life, but Bruce Lee was not afraid and would never join the corrupt gang, even if it cost him his life. At that time, Stick, the gang leader, and the rest of their followers gathered. They were upset because Bruce Lee refused to join them, so they decided to threaten and hurt all his friends and relatives until he surrendered and joined their gang. The next day, Bruce Lee went to meet a friend of his who was also an actor. He told him about his problems with Stick's gang. His friend advised him to leave America and return to China. However, Bruce Lee refused to run from the corrupt gang. In the middle of their conversation, a group of criminals suddenly appeared. Bruce Lee started fighting them fiercely. Despite being outnumbered, he used secret kung fu techniques and defeated them all. But then, one of the criminals appeared and tied Bruce Lee with a belt, and they all gathered around him like wolves. They told him this was his last chance to join them, but Bruce Lee continued to refuse and insulted them. One day, Bruce Lee was filming a new movie. Among the actors was a gang member with a gun. As Bruce Lee prepared to perform his scene, the criminal shot him in the head. At first, the director and the others thought it was part of the act, but the bullet was real, and the criminal escaped in the chaos. Unfortunately, Bruce Lee was bleeding and close to death. After some time, it was revealed that Bruce Lee was still alive because he noticed the criminal at the last moment and managed to dodge the bullet. Marshall, Bruce Lee's friend, told him that he needed to fake his death and not let anyone know he was still alive to survive the evil gang. Indeed, Bruce Lee and a doctor faked his death, and the news spread that Bruce Lee was dead. A huge funeral was held, attended by thousands. Stick and the rest of the gang were happy, thinking Bruce Lee was dead. Bruce's friend Morris was devastated, but Marshall tried to console her as much as possible. During this time, Bruce Lee was recovering from his injury. He decided to wear a fake beard and disguise himself to track down and take revenge on the gang members. He watched Stick and the gang leader from a distance, took a motorcycle, and followed them until he reached the docks. He rented a boat and followed them to see where they were going. Bruce tracked Stick and the gang leader for long hours until he discovered their hideout. He then snuck in quietly without being noticed by the guards and jumped over the wall. He managed to enter the gang's hideout and waited for the gang leader to be alone. He attacked him and was about to choke him to death. But suddenly, the rest of the guards appeared and started fighting mercilessly. Luckily, Bruce Lee was disguised, and no one recognized he was still alive. He delivered lightning-fast, deadly blows to the criminals. Any criminal who got close to Bruce received a knockout punch instantly. Bruce Lee broke the criminals' bones but eventually had to escape as they started shooting at him. After Bruce Lee left the hideout, one of the guards continued to chase him. Bruce used the city's crowded streets during a festival to blend in and lose the guard. Stick and the gang leader were going crazy, not knowing who had attacked them. The next morning, there was a big martial arts tournament, and thousands of spectators attended. Carl Miller, one of Stick's followers, was fighting in the tournament under their name. Bruce Lee disguised himself as an old man and waited for his chance to strike. After a long and skilled fight, Carl won the tournament. Everyone celebrated him, and journalists interviewed him. After his interview, Carl went to his room to change clothes. Bruce Lee snuck into his room, still disguised as an old man, and locked the door. At first, Carl was confused, but when Bruce revealed himself, Carl was shocked, thinking Bruce was dead. The fight began, showcasing Carl's high skills in karate and bone-breaking techniques. However, Bruce Lee's intelligence and quick reflexes allowed him to dodge Carl's attacks and counter with powerful punches, ultimately defeating him. While Bruce was fighting Carl, the sound of the fight drew the attention of the press and the gang members. Bruce delivered a fatal kick to Carl's heart, finishing him off before escaping just as the others arrived. The next day, Stick and the gang leader were still unsure who was killing their men one by one. Stick told the gang leader that the fighting style resembled Bruce Lee's, suggesting he might still be alive. Initially, the gang leader didn't believe it, but Stick and the gang went to check Bruce's grave. When they opened it, they found a dummy instead of a body, realizing they had been tricked. The criminals then kidnapped Ann Morris, Bruce's friend. Stick met with Marshall and told him to inform Bruce that Ann had been taken. To get her back, Bruce had to surrender by 10 o'clock, or Ann would be killed. Marshall relayed the message to Bruce, who decided he had to go to the gang's hideout to rescue her. That night, Bruce quietly infiltrated the place where Ann was being held and freed her from her restraints. However, the gang members soon located him and tried to enter the warehouse on motorcycles. Bruce saved Ann and asked her to hide while the gang members broke the warehouse windows and stormed in to finish him off. Bruce used his stealth abilities and began attacking the gang members with lightning speed. He knocked one of them off his motorcycle and took his clothes to disguise himself so the rest of the gang wouldn't recognize him. Bruce took the outfit and helmet of one of the gang members. He also took a motorcycle and continued to attack the criminals from the shadows until he eliminated them all. Afterward, Bruce moved stealthily through the building to reach Stick and the gang leader and finish them off. However, he was surprised to find a martial arts expert waiting for him, skilled in using nunchaku. Bruce also picked up a nunchaku and showcased his skills. The two began to fight, and Bruce quickly overpowered the fighter due to his superior speed and strength, eventually choking him with the Bruce then climbed to the third floor where he encountered another fighter, an expert in karate and skilled in delivering powerful punches. Initially, Bruce had difficulty controlling him, but he soon studied his opponent's style, re-entered the fight, and completely defeated the karate fighter. When Bruce reached the fourth floor, he was confronted by Hakim, one of Stick's and the gang leader's guards. Hakim was a giant, nearly 3 meters tall, and highly skilled in martial arts. Bruce faced significant challenges controlling Hakim, getting tossed around due to the massive size difference. However, Bruce decided to endure the blows until Hakim became exhausted. He targeted Hakim's legs to incapacitate and weaken him. Bruce's strategy worked, and Hakim could no longer fight. Bruce then knocked him to the ground and choked him until he passed out. Once Hakim was defeated, Stick himself appeared, wielding a knife. Bruce disarmed him, and the two began to fight. Stick's fighting style was street boxing, and he managed to land a few blows on Bruce. However, Bruce countered effectively and ultimately defeated Stick. Bruce then headed to the top floor to confront the gang leader, only to find a statue in his place, meant to deceive him. Bruce saw through the trick and continued his pursuit. Out of fear and panic, the gang leader tried to escape from the rooftop, but his grip slipped and he fell from a great height, dying upon impact. With this, Bruce Lee had eradicated the gang that had tried to kill him, proving himself to be a formidable and ruthless fighter. Afterward, Bruce began documenting his unique fighting style and practiced some of his secret moves. The scene then transitions to a Japanese warrior and one of Bruce's dear friends. One day, they were walking and discussing martial arts when a person suddenly appeared and informed them that an American young man wanted to challenge them to a fight. Before the challenge, Bruce watched closely. The American young man was challenging Shin to prove that American boxing is the strongest martial art in the world. But Shin, using Japanese Aikido, easily overpowered and humiliated him. Aikido specializes in close-range combat, allowing Shin to dominate his opponent and send him running like a dog. Bruce praised Shin for his excellent performance and shared that he too had been challenged recently by a fighter who threatened his family if he refused to fight. Bruce accepted the challenge reluctantly. When Bruce met the fighter, they both prepared for the confrontation. Initially, Bruce was surprised by his opponent's skills, as he was an expert in karate with very fast strikes. However, Bruce soon identified his opponent's weak points and countered with devastating blows, winning the fight. He warned the fighter that if he ever threatened his family again, he would break his arms and legs and leave him paralyzed. Shin commended Bruce for his bravery and dedication to protecting his family. The scene then transitions to Master About, the owner of the largest martial arts school in China with thousands of students. Bruce spoke with Master About, inquiring about his younger brother, Bob. The master told him that Bob was failing and not attending training sessions. Angry, Bruce decided to teach his younger brother a lesson. When he reached Bob's room, he found it empty, so he left a note urging him to focus on his training and stay away from bad influences. Later that night, Bruce read in the newspapers that his friend Shin, the Japanese fighter, had died recently. He wept for his dear friend, noting that the cause of Shin's death was unknown and that Shin's only daughter had not yet been informed. Determined, Bruce decided to find her and let her know about her father's death. After some searching, Bruce discovered that Shin's daughter worked at a nightclub. He went to the nightclub, met her, and broke the news about her father's death. It was revealed that she had been estranged from her father and hadn't spoken to him in a long time. She was shocked and saddened by the news. Bruce expressed his surprise at how such a strong fighter like Shin could die so easily and asked her to leave her job at the nightclub, saying it brought shame to her deceased father. In the midst of their conversation, a group of criminals suddenly appeared and tried to attack Shin's daughter. Bruce stepped in and fought them mercilessly. Despite being outnumbered, he skillfully and swiftly dealt with them. However, the sheer number of attackers forced him to take the fight outside to the street, where he continued to defend her. Bruce fought with all his might, but noticed the criminals starting to surround him from all directions. He managed to dodge their vehicles, making them crash into a building, and then escaped amidst the chaos like a lightning bolt. The next day, a grand funeral was held for Shin, and Bruce attended it with one of his students. During the funeral, Bruce snuck away to see his friend's body one last time. When he arrived, he was surprised to find a group of guards preventing him from visiting Shin's body, despite their close friendship. This made Bruce realize something was amiss. After the funeral, Bruce went to help bury Shin. As they were lowering the coffin into the ground, a helicopter suddenly appeared with a giant claw attached. The helicopter used the claw to grab Shin's coffin and tried to fly away with it. Bruce clung to the helicopter's claw, refusing to let his friend's body be stolen. Unfortunately, a sniper on the helicopter shot Bruce in the neck, causing him to fall from a great height. Bruce fell to the ground and died. A short while later, a large funeral was held for Bruce, and everyone mourned his loss. Bruce's younger brother, Bob, received a letter from their father, informing him that Bruce had been killed by an unknown gang while attending Shin's funeral. Determined to avenge his brother, Bob set off for Japan to uncover the identity of the people responsible for the helicopter and Bruce's murder. Bob met with Master About and learned the whole story. About told him that before Shin's death, he was acquainted with an American kung fu master named Lewis, who ran a large martial arts school and had a bodyguard named Phil. Phil's left arm was missing, but he was highly skilled in martial arts. Bob then traveled to Lewis's school to find out who killed his brother, Bruce. When he arrived, he introduced himself to Lewis and expressed his interest in learning kung fu alongside his students. Lewis welcomed him warmly. Bob tried to befriend Lewis to uncover whether he was involved in Bruce's death. Lewis gave Bob a tour of the school and showed him his rigorous training methods. Over time, Bob became close to Lewis and learned many things about him. One night, Bob attempted to spy on Lewis to uncover his secrets. Suddenly, a masked fighter appeared and started attacking him fiercely. Luckily, Bob had trained under his brother Bruce Lee and was very skilled in combat. He managed to fend off the masked fighter and defeat him. Afterwards, Lewis arrived and asked Bob why he was wandering around the school at night. Bob explained that he had been training late. Bob suspected that the masked fighter was Phil, the man with one arm. One day, Bob saw Lewis having breakfast and was shocked to see him eating raw meat and drinking animal blood to gain strength. Bob then talked to him and tried to extract information. Lewis revealed that there was a secret organization called the Tower of Death. Their mission was to eliminate all strong fighters like Shin and Bruce Lee to become the most powerful martial artists themselves. That night, the masked fighter returned and attacked Lewis, killing him because he had discovered secrets about Bob. When Bob woke up and found out that Lewis was dead, he realized that Phil was responsible and went to confront him. At first, Phil tried to escape, but Bob cornered him and decided to fight him with one hand only to make the fight fair, since Phil was missing an arm. From the beginning, Bob used all the secret techniques he had learned from his older brother Bruce Lee. He grabbed Phil, defeated him, and demanded to know who killed Shin and his brother Bruce. It turned out that Phil's arm wasn't actually missing and he had been pretending all along. He tried to ambush Bob, but Bob countered and struck him in the neck, choking him to death. Bob deduced that Phil was working with the Tower of Death and was responsible for killing Lewis, Shin, and his brother Bruce Lee. He decided to find the leader of this organization to seek revenge. Bob knew the location of the Tower of Death's hideout from his conversation with Lewis, and decided to infiltrate it quietly without anyone knowing he was there. However, he encountered some guards along the way. Bob quickly defeated the guards and managed to find the entrance to the hideout. Upon entering, he was surprised to find a large group of people dressed in white. He began fighting them mercilessly, showcasing his legendary kung fu skills as Bruce Lee's younger brother, who had learned all his secret moves. Bob defeated the guards, but was suddenly confronted by a strong fighter who appeared at the last moment. The fighter distinguished by his strong, muscular build and endurance. However, over time, Bob managed to weaken him and ultimately defeat him. When he wanted to continue to reach the leader of the Tower of Death organization, Bob took a rope and a hook and hung them from the ceiling to clear his path to the leader's room. But before he could confront the leader, he was attacked by a dangerous monk. This monk protected the gang leader and prevented anyone from knowing his identity. He was highly skilled in martial arts and used a deadly weapon. Despite the monk's attempts to kill Bob multiple times, Bob skillfully evaded his attacks and gained control of the fight. After landing a blow that rendered him unconscious, Bob discovered something very strange. The leader of the Tower of Death was actually Shin, Bruce Lee's friend. Shin was a drug dealer who faked his death to evade the police. He also harbored resentment towards Bruce Lee for being a better fighter and decided to eliminate him secretly. At first, Bob was shocked and couldn't believe it, as Shin had been Bruce Lee's close friend since childhood, but he gathered his strength through fighting. Unfortunately, Shin was very powerful due to his training with Bruce Lee and his extensive experience. However, Bob inherited his fighting abilities from his older brother Bruce. He fought Shin relentlessly and refused to surrender. Bob used his intelligence and managed to outsmart Shin multiple times. Shin, realizing he was losing, grabbed a wooden sword and began using samurai techniques to finish off Bob completely. At this point, Bob began to recall his brother's teachings and all the advice he had received from him. He utilized the martial art that Bruce Lee had created, Jeet Kune Do, and started to gain the upper hand against Shin. Just as Bob was about to win the fight, Shin switched to his real sword to kill Bob. However, Bob evaded his strikes and used Shin's own sword to kill him, exacting revenge for his older brother Bruce Lee and reclaiming justice once again. And that's the recap of the Death Game movie series. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and check out our other selection of recaps. Take care.